everybody, back again with another episode of Women of Substance. And today we have ourselves none other than the dynamic Shilpa Sharma. Shilpa has spent over 2 decades in textile, craft, and lifestyle retail space, and she was one of the foremost people to build a growth story of Fab India. If you have anything to do with India, if you've been to India or have lived in India at any point in time in your life, you would know Fab India. But she quit in 2010 and she started another journey with her life, and that was her entrepreneurial dream. And she co-founded India's first online retail portal for exquisite Indian handmade and contemporary design craft products. It is called Jaypore, which she handed over the baton to a strategic partner and was able to paint another canvas of growth. She's currently mentoring Flourish, which is a global platform that envisions making conscious consumption an accessible lifestyle choice for consumers around the globe, and upholds values that democratize wealth creation as well as give recognition for creative producer groups. She continues to nurture two other ventures. One is Breakaway, which is her outcome for her passion for travel. And it executes bespoke beyond the brochure experiential journeys around India, and a fine food and exceptional experiences a restaurant called Mustard, which offers Bengali and French cuisine and has a presence in Goa and Mumbai. Amazing to have you here. We'll talk a lot more about your journey, Shilpa. First and foremost, I'm so excited to have you here. You have had such a prolific career, not only with, things that you've done things that you have a passion for. Tell us about the real Shilpa. How did you get started, Shilpa? What is your journey till now?
Well, at the outset, thank you so much, Meera, for having me here, to be part of this podcast. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm really looking forward to a conversation which will also touch upon things that have never been spoken about. I'm hoping, I'd like for my takeaway to be as much as, that of everyone else in the room today. So, yeah. I grew up in a very, very nurturing and loving joint family in Mumbai. It was conservative. In many ways, also a bit hostile, right? Because the truth is that, business families have very strong beliefs that girls in our family don't go out and work. You don't need to work. Affluence is a great, reason for not wanting to step out, right? What's the need? But the truth is that I was willful. I was unwilling to conform to the life that good girls in my family led. I mean, there was something right through school. I went to a convent school, a girls only school, but there was always this feeling that there is a world out there that I don't get to see. I'm not exposed to, and therefore the need to just do what it would take to claw my way out and be able to see this world and to be able to participate in it. I mean, look, the truth is that I love my family, but I'm not like them, and that was a realization that really made me stand up for myself. I mean, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to spend the rest of my life living up to expectations of me that I felt that my parents wanted me to fulfill, to be the person they thought I ought to be. So, you do what you need to, but everything I needed, everything I wanted to do then felt like a battle.
So tell me about how difficult was it? Because, joint families are a totally different domain, especially affluent joint families who think girls don't need to work because we provided them everything.
Yes.
That the entire mentality of our family is telling us, you provided for, why the hell do you want to even go study? You're taken care of, and we'll marry you off to somebody who'll take care of you.
Yeah.
It's like being handed over from one person to another.
Absolutely.
How is it revolting under that entire archaic system?
You realize, I mean, the day you realize that, the only one who can help you is yourself. I mean, I'm able to put it in these many words now, Meera, at my age today. But, then it was hard because it just felt like an uphill battle. but the consequences of giving in were not acceptable either. So that gives you an inner strength, that gives you, perseverance, persistence, in a way that, I think I also surprised myself. And look, I mean,
when did you decide
yeah,
this was important? When did you decide? Because I remember talking to you before, and you said you're the only one in the family who did it. Your sister did not, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
what is
yeah.
it that was different in your upbringing versus your sister's upbringing? When did you realize that this is not the life I want to lead and I want to take charge?
I fought with my dad to go to St. Xavier's College in Mumbai. Okay, this was like 1980, 82. It's important to document years because that sets the perspective on how far back was this. I mean, my son's growing up in a world where he's not seen any of that. So, yeah, in the early 80s, when I went to St. Xavier's College, it was a culture shock for me. I mean, I'd grown up in Mumbai, but having lived in the suburbs, having lived in a very, very sheltered, protective, nurturing joint family system, which was also, like I said, conservative, St. Xavier's College was like a world which is very far away from mine, but a world that left me curious, asking questions, wanting more. And that's when I started to stand up for myself and, just disagree with choices that my family was, asking me to make. And yeah, and realizing that, I had to delay marriage because marriage is really not the be all and the end all of, where you want to be. And yeah, I mean, I went to B school to delay marriage, so that they wouldn't, on a promise that I wouldn't ask to be allowed to work. But the truth is that, I think 2 years in B school just gave me the confidence to be able to come back home and announce I was going to work and they could do what they wanted. But I wasn't going to budge. And look, I mean, my battles with my dad were very hard fought, but very well won because, over a period of time, he just became my best friend. you know he spent, I mean, I could see it in his eyes. He was trying very hard to put himself, to think in my shoes and be a little more understanding and more accepting of my ways, and it must have been quite the journey for him. you know but and my mother um, didn't say very much, didn't understand my world. She was, married at 18, had kids, had 4 kids by the time she was 25. But in her silence there was strength and support, which was encouraging and motivating, in every which way. So, I just, forged ahead and plodded on and just took charge. Yeah, yeah.
So, what was the biggest obstacle getting out from such a family and then going to college, getting a job? You started with Fabindia, right?
No, I didn't start my career with Fabindia. You see, straight from B school, I went into advertising, spent a year
Mhm.
and a half in advertising, realized that advertising was really not quite the personality fit that, I thought I could ever be. And I quit very quickly. And, there's always an inner voice and you listen to your inner voice. So about a year and a half into advertising, I figured that I really didn't want to be there. Applied for a job in brand, moved to Cadbury Schweppes, Cadbury India at that point in time. um, you know, Spent a year and a half there, met my husband at work, this bright, ambitious, reasonably good looking, fine gentleman. We got married. And because we were in the same company, you didn't want to, continue working in the same team because you don't want, too much of the other person, right? At work together, at home together. Um, Quit that job, moved to Marico, which was one of the most progressive Indian companies even today. Yeah, and I spent 4 years at Marico before Fabindia actually happened. So
So, how did Fabindia happen? Was it because you already had an interest in art and crafts and weavers and that domain, or was it because life just took you there?
through Mira, through my early years, in sales and marketing, I think I was invested in the perception of being seen as a hugely competent, driven, efficient, intelligent, independent thinker, right? But through it all, I mean, I'd spent about 8 years, between advertising and marketing. There was always this inner voice which said, you really want to be doing this? Is this what you really enjoy? At the end of the day, early days in your career, you're never a strong enough voice to be able to influence decisions, because there's a hierarchy that you're reporting into, right? Somebody up there, either your manager who you report into directly, or your manager's boss. Yeah, someone up there gets to take calls, and you can't question those calls. So I think I got a bit tired of towing line. And the timing of it all was quite interesting because I took a few months off, and my son was born in 1997. But very quickly decided that I wanted to be at home, be able to give as much as I could of to motherhood, because as a mom at 31, and I didn't think I was ready to go back to work after looking at a tiny little baby in the house, not willing to hand over responsibility of upbringing of the child to either my mom or to my mother-in-law, both of who would have been very happy to make the time so I could get on with my career. But look, the thing here also is that I'd always liked what I'd seen of Fabindia as a product, as a brand. We had no access because there was no Fabindia in Mumbai. And work trips to Delhi, whether they were through Cadbury's or whether they were through Marico, entailed making time to run to their one flagship store in, Greater Kailash in
Block
Delhi.
Market, Greater
Yes,
Kailash.
in N Block Market.
I grew up. I spent a fair amount of time in M Block.
Yes.
Greater Kailash, and N Block was just there's a really nice bakery right next to that one, and they used to have hot cross buns, right? Yeah. And I remember as a kid making trips to the bakery to just buy those hot cross buns.
You've no idea, those, the aromas and the flavors from the bakery came wafting into the office, into the corporate office at Fabindia. And everybody just wanted to drop what they were doing to just go grab something, right? Nice and hot and simple to eat.
I remember that place. And I remember that entire Fabindia store with the basement. And oh my God, what a beautiful store that was. I did not know that was your
Look, I mean, it still continues to be one of their flagship stores in the country. But, every trip to Fabindia just made me want more and more of Fabindia in my life, right? In terms of, the choices I made about the clothes I wore, the kind of stuff I wanted in my home. And just on a whim, on one of my work trips in the early days of, Marico, I'd walked up to, William Bissell, who's known as the guy who took over from John Bissell, the original founder of Fabindia, his son. And I'd walked up to William and introduced myself and said, look, I love your brand, and I don't know why you're not in Mumbai, Bombay in those days. If you ever decide to come to Bombay, call me. And, 6 months into my maternity break, I got a call to say that we're now ready to come to Mumbai. Do you want to work with us? That was the beginning of, a 12-year innings with a business that, I just loved and adored from the bottom of my heart.
So is it fair to say that Fabindia really defined the second innings of your life in terms of career?
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of how you understood the craftspeople, how you sourced it, how you put that together it's actually a global chain, I know, because I remember going to Fabindia in Dubai as well. That store on Mankul Road.
Yes.
It was for the longest time a place where I would go shop. But tell us more about what was it about Fabindia that kind of drove so much passion in you?
Meera, honestly, I mean, I think I got to be a part of the Fabindia growth story at a very, very important phase in the journey of Fabindia. Fabindia was 40 years in the business. When I went to work for Fabindia in 1998, almost 40 years. And but up until then, John had kept it small, and Mumbai was the 5th store in the country. But when William took over from John, he figured that there was tremendous amount of potential to unlock. And what we really needed to do was to really grow the geographical footprint of the brand that people only knew in Delhi and Chennai and Bangalore, for example, and then Mumbai. I think I got the opportunity to really evolve, really contribute, and it was evident to me that the choice to take it or not was entirely mine to make. And I was always willing to take responsibility for whatever it is that I was proposing to the business, whether in terms of choice of new cities to open stores in, or choice of locations, and even product choices, right? And because Fabindia was small and homegrown until then, Um, Anybody with drive and motivation and willing to take on responsibility was just given a free hand. There were no hard lines of control. There were no silos where you got told, look, this is not what you were hired for. Focus on what you came to do and let that be somebody else's job. The one thing that I didn't shy away from was the responsibility of the outcomes, right? Accountability for the decisions I took. And that, I think, was my biggest strength, because there I was willing to take complete accountability for the decisions I was asking the business to take. Investments of crores in properties to buy, investments of a few lakhs, and a commitment to banks for debt finance, right, to finance the opening of new stores. And I think Fabindia actually gave me the opportunity to feel empowered in a way that I'd not known empowerment ever, and to be able to see outcomes of the decisions I was taking, very tangible outcomes. New stores. I mean, every store was a new baby. In my 10 years, the first 10 years of my time at Fabindia, I opened 92 stores, handed over contracts for about 36 stores that would open over a period of time. It just felt great. I mean, to be able to, and to meet, lovely people, to be able to travel the length and breadth of the country. I think I discovered that I had a streak in me, to be an entrepreneur. Because, I think everything I did at Fabindia, I just felt like it was my own business. I never ever felt like an employee.
That is
And that
such
was
an important
huge.
feeling to have. That's
Yeah,
such an
yeah,
important feeling to have,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Ownership.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, there came an opportunity in 2008 when my husband was moving jobs, and our son was 10 by then. And I'd gotten a bit tired of setting up stores, because you see, you get to the stage where you feel the learning has stopped. What is really changing is only the scale at which you're doing things.
Absolutely.
And you're plodding on in the sand and not really getting anywhere, right? And I was done with opening stores. In 2007 we'd opened 24 stores.
But
There was a
the
team
thing,
in place
over
around the
here
country.
that tells
Yeah,
me you're very entrepreneurial bent of mind is the fact that a lot of people grow comfortable where they are, and they don't want to leave that comfort zone. But it's
yeah,
only
yeah,
entrepreneurial people that actually take themselves from comfort to discomfort, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
restart and reboot themselves into another career, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kept getting told things like, why do you always have ants in your pants, and why can't you just sit back and enjoy this, phase for a while? But for me, I mean, if I wasn't constantly learning something new every day, it was going to start to kill me in many ways professionally. I mean, I was at a high, but look, I mean, the move to Delhi, I think, gave me an opportunity to drive product, to drive buying and merchandising for Fabindia. And, I'd been customer facing for 10 long years. So to be able to translate my learnings, customer insights, being, leading at the front, to taking product decisions was a massive opportunity. And I enjoyed doing that. Launch jewelry as a business at Fabindia, because it was a category which was so in sync with apparel and accessories and so on. Over a period of time, knew that jewelry had the making of a move the needle venture for the business. But there comes a time where you feel that you've kind of reached the end of your journey with an organization, because you've outgrown the shoe you're wearing. My dreams and aspirations for the business were growing at a much faster pace than what the organization, was focused on, right? Their whole focus was still on getting to 250 stores, growing the retail footprint. But, I was done with that. I'd done that for 10 years. And the leaps that I wanted to take on product, the influences I wanted to have on organization policy when it came to producer groups and so on and so forth, I started to have differences of opinion on. And then that there comes a time when that, okay, this is time to move on.
Tell me more
And I
about
think,
Jaypore.
yeah, I mean, Jaypore didn't happen instantly. When I quit Fabindia, I also quit a 17-year-old marriage. And the two, went hand in hand. And in hindsight, I think it was the best call to take, because really, the gulf between who I was and who I wanted to be and what I was expected to be in my personal life and in my professional, career was just two different things. The idea of me and the person I really was, were going in two different directions. So when in 2010 I took that call, um, I didn't really know, what the way forward was going to be, but I was okay with it.
I have a question for you. It might be a little
Sure.
personal, so feel free to just, cover
No,
stuff
I'm
that
good with.
you
I mean,
go.
I think the people we are just. Our personal and our professional lives are so intertwined that you're the same
Totally,
person. Yeah,
totally,
yeah, yeah,
totally.
yeah.
So
So
my
I'm
question
happy
to you,
to
my
take.
question to you is
Yep.
actually pretty academic. When you quit on a 17-year-old marriage, how were you judged by people around you?
You see, I mean, in taking the calls I took early on in my career, in fighting the battles I fought with my family, I think I was beyond caring, what somebody else's opinion of me was. So therefore to be judged, and I have to say that, I kept my marriage going for many years. In the marriage, kept it going for many years because I didn't want to upset
A
my
lot of
parents.
people, we all do that.
Well, not a lot of people, really my parents.
Yeah,
It was never
mostly.
about, our son. It was never about my husband, because he and I
Hmm.
used to have conversations about the fact that things aren't going well.
Hmm.
But the truth is that, and I think my family surprised me by their response, because they were so supportive. My dad said to me that you're a thinking, intelligent human being. And if you've taken this call, to quit two very large aspects of your life, a career of 12 years and, a marriage of 17, then you've thought through this one. And, I'm here to support you in every which way you want me to. And that in itself was, just the biggest support I needed at that point in time. Because, being the fiercely independent person I was, I didn't really want anyone, I didn't want, to lean on them financially. Like I said, I didn't know what, way forward was going to be, but that was okay because, I mean, I kept the faith. I knew it was going to be okay. And that's all that mattered at that point in time. I chose not to move back to Mumbai because, our son was 12, and it was important for us to continue to let him have the benefit of both parents in the same city, because Vivek, my husband, was going to continue to live in Delhi, and I had by then decided I wanted to work for myself, and therefore that I could do out of anywhere. I didn't need to be in Mumbai, which is where my physical and emotional support system was, because up until 42, I'd only lived in Mumbai and nowhere else. I'd only been in Delhi for about 3 years when I took this call, but I chose to stay back in Delhi, and I said to myself, I'll make Delhi work.
So
Delhi is not an easy
how
city
did
to
you
live
make
in.
Delhi work? Tell us about that story.
So yeah, now look, I mean, when I first moved from Mumbai to Delhi, I think all my friends and everybody who knew me professionally and personally said to me, you're never going to last in Delhi. You'll come right back. The truth is that I realized very quickly, when I stopped working for Fabindia, the decision I took was that I wasn't going to work for anyone else anymore. I was not employable in Delhi. The work culture in Delhi is vastly different from the work culture in Mumbai. And but in deciding to work for myself, I realized also that I could pretty much pick and choose the people I let into my life.
Mm.
And in doing that, when you can pick the people you allow into your life, then what it is about the city that bothers you, ceases to be a problem, because you're not stuck with an organization, you're not stuck with an organization culture, and you're not stuck with people. So yeah, I mean, the choices you make in terms of working for yourself really also open up a world of opportunity, because then you're not binkered. You're not focused on the one thing you need to get done today. You know, you've got, and I think the realization that I also craved diversity, diversity of exposure, diversity of opportunity. So Jaypore didn't happen soon after I quit working for Fabindia. I mean, I set up a consulting practice to help people in the retail business. I set up a small travel company, which Breakaway, which was really an outcome of my own love for travel, the way I like to travel. And not working full time for an organization frees up so much of your time. I mean, not being married anymore frees up even more of your time. so so these are the two things that I was doing. And reporting to no one but yourself is just so liberating, it's so intoxicating. And I remember reading Maya Angelou, and she said there's an opportunity in not having anything to lose. All you need is the right attitude, right? Now, a chance meeting with, Puneet, who ended up being a co-founder at Jaypore. He was this young software techie who'd only been in the online space. And, I was at a stage where I was enjoying consulting, the diversity of, businesses I was consulting with, fashion and lifestyle. I was like, somebody said to him, look, you want to be in the online space, but you don't know what to sell. Here is somebody who might have some ideas on what to sell. And of course, I had these ideas. I'd had these dreams and aspirations I had for Fabindia in terms of product, in terms of the leap of faith that we needed to take as an organization to be able to hold a customer who kind of moved up the socio-economic ladder and was ready for more, but didn't know where to go. Because the next brand, the next offering was like many miles away, far beyond affordability.
There's a huge gap in that domain.
There's a huge gap between where we chose to stop. We as, Fabindia as an organization chose to stop, and where, luxury began. So look, I mean, I was like, okay, let me give you 2 days a week of my time and we see what we can build. And that's how I started to build the Jaypore store. Yep.
Amazing. So tell us more about Breakaway. I absolutely love what you're doing with, those plans and, those packages. Tell us more about your passion for traveling and what made Breakaway different.
I think passion for traveling came as an outcome of having traveled the length and breadth of the country to set up stores for Fabindia. The opportunity to stay back an extra day just to be able to, if I went to Cochin, for example, in Kerala, and when I was done with work, I'd stay on an extra day, more often than not on a Saturday, much to my son's angst and my husband's. But I'd stay on an extra day just to be able to tramp around Cochin on my own, discovering Cochin, and, exploring the neighborhood. And then come back home and tell my husband, we must take a holiday to Kerala as a family because it's just so gorgeous. It's just so beautiful. It has so much to offer.
Yeah, but mostly, I've done that a lot myself as well. But I'm lucky, I'm single, so I have nobody except my dog waiting for me to come back home. So what I used to do, traveling anywhere in the world, I'd make sure I take time out to see the place because you never know. And, COVID being the biggest leveler, you never know when you will or will not be able to visit that place again. So I completely agree with you on taking that specific time out in between work to really see where you are outside the office buildings as well. So tell how was your transition after marriage? I mean, again, sliding the conversation back to a personal front. What were your biggest challenges being a single woman with a kid, and then having a entrepreneurship isn't a safe career. It's risky. How did you manage the risk, especially with a kid?
I think I believed in myself, and I was just ready to take a leap of faith because I believed, having done what I'd done at Fabindia, I think gave me the confidence, made me so assertive, right? I think my self-esteem, my confidence was at its absolute peak when I walked out on the marriage. I didn't really think our son would be would feel like he came from a broken home and so on and so forth. There was a commitment that my husband and I both made to keep equanimity in the relationship for the sake of our child. And I think that took a lot of hard work, and the credit for which goes to the both of us. Tana is a happy, well-adjusted, bright young man now, charting his own course in New York. Living the life that he wants, and I'm glad that he's just grown the way he has, and I think the credit for that goes to my ex-husband and I. So as far as he was concerned, I think we took the calls we needed to. As for my own self, like I said, I didn't know where my next month's rent was going to come from. But the truth is that in doing what I was doing with consulting and, with Breakaway and then with Jaypore, I knew that, there was something I was building. there was, I've always been one to push limits, push the envelope with people around me in the workplace, stick my foot in the door, to take on, more responsibility, not to let go of an opportunity. And look, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to push the envelope and move mountains, then you're changing the fabric of the space you're in. And it became fairly evident to me that, Jaypore was an opportunity that was totally, unexplored. Um, and and yeah, well, when I started to build Jaypore, the idea was to really build the anthropology, of India. I mean, we all know Anthropology as a brand. It still continues to be one of my most favorite brands today. And I felt that, Jaipur had the making of, contemporary Indian style. And yeah, I mean, I think, Mira, there wasn't a moment of doubt that we'd be okay. I mean, there were times when there were financial anxieties, but I didn't know where my next month's rent was going to come from. But look, the thing is that the universe always finds a way to take care of you so that you can forge ahead and continue to do what you're focused on doing. And the rest of it just falls into place.
I know I meet a lot of women who are, on the edge. They are in bad marriages, or they are in a bad space, whether it's work wise or otherwise, but they don't have the they just do not have the gumption to put themselves through a difficult situation like you did. Right, you deliberately put yourself to that situation by axing not only the marriage part of it but also the career part of it, and then rebooting and restarting something that you wanted to do. You did not want to live life on anybody else's terms but your own terms, and that is a very brave space, and a lot of women are afraid to approach that brave space because of financial anxiety, or just the anxiety of being alone, or not having a support system that takes them through the process. So this was indeed very, very, very brave of you. I have to compliment you, Bella.
Thank you so much for saying that. I mean, life is a series of curveballs, right? So there are times when there is a dent in your optimism and you feel your deepest convictions are being challenged. But I think to stay focused on giving your best to whatever it is that you're doing just keeps you rooted, keeps you engaged and looking ahead. And that's really what worked for me.
So how did mustard happen?
So there came a time, in my journey with Jaipur where obviously 2 days a week or 3 days a week of my time was not enough. We had to go out and raise public money, VC money, not public money, sorry, VC money. And it became evident to me that I would have to close my consulting practice. Now, through my consulting practice, I work very closely with Poonam, who's a dear friend, and a colleague in consulting. I think as an outcome of one of our consulting mandates, there came an opportunity for a space in Goa that became available. And I was at that point in time pulling back from consulting because I needed to give more and more of my time to Jaipur. In trying to free myself of consulting, I think, Poonam said to me one day, she said, there's this lovely space in Goa that's available. You and I work so well together. I'm not part of Breakaway. I'm not part of Jaipur. Why don't we take this on and do something in the food space? And she was a hospitality professional when I first met her. So we really, took on the space, again, two crazy women, deep love of food and all things beautiful, curators of experiences. I mean, I'd already done Breakaway by then. I was curating product for Jaipur and realizing that, I mean, how hard is curating food? But you had to do something which really would hold its own in a market. Goa by then had like 2,000 eateries. So nobody really needed yet another Goan food place or yet another Italian food place, right? If you needed to stand for something, you had to do something which was going to make people sit up and take notice. And we decided to do home style, unpretentious, honest food that came
But
straight from your grandmother.
how did you come up with French and Bengali food?
Well,
What's the
we
story?
wanted, and through my travels, I realized that the diversity of regional cuisine in India, I mean, is so underserved, right? I mean, it's so not in your face unless you really, really travel. And aside from very enterprising South Indians who brought idlis and dosas to the country,
Everywhere.
or very enterprising Gujarati families who took Gujarati thalis to, let's say, Mumbai, for example, outside of Gujarat. There's very little regional cuisine that one saw, in one's explorations of food. And I think we started to look for a cuisine which lent itself to Goa. The focus on seafood, the focus on, let's say, pork and mutton and fish. And the one cuisine that came was staring at us in the face was really Bengali, because Bengali is all,
Fish.
well, fresh fish, river water fish, and seawater as well, and pork and mutton and the rest of it, and a cuisine which would thrive in Goa, because Goa had not seen Bengali. And the minute we decided we wanted to do Bengali food, we said we'll call it mustard, because Bengali is built on kashandi, which is mustard. But I think the awareness and the credit for this goes entirely to Poonam. She said, "Look, Goa is a mixed bag of people. People come from all over the world.
Well,
You know, we need Bengali to be paired with a more neutral cuisine, which would be far more neutral on the palate, and yet complement Bengali. So we started to look for a world cuisine which would really complement, Bengali and mustard. And then we didn't have to look too far, because there was French with, Dijon mustard, for example, moutard being very, very French. And we decided to then, bring in French and offer two cuisines meeting over mustard as an ingredient. Except that we didn't know where the chefs were going to come from. Look, we were two crazy women who knew food, who understood the business of food, but didn't know where. And that in itself was like a whole story. And someday, I think both Poonam and I hope we'll get the opportunity to write a book about this. But
I cannot wait for this book to happen, because I didn't get the connection till you said mustard is the thing common. I didn't get the connection as to why you would have Bengali and French food together in a restaurant. We do have a mustard restaurant here as well, where I am, in Napa Valley, where the vineyards are, but that is Californian food and mustard as a base. So I completely get why you call it mustard. But I'd wait for that book, definitely. Shilpa. Okay, so now coming to all your ventures together, if you were to write a book about your life, not only the personal part of it, but your career part of it, what are the three most important things that you would tell the readers, especially the readers are young women?
The one thing I want to say, when we're talking about young women, is I am so grateful to the generation today, which really is asking questions about patriarchy, about purpose, about all the conditioning that women of my generation just took as a fait accompli, right? I mean, I think it took for me to get into my 40s to discover my legacy, to, unravel all that, to start to question all that we grew up with, right? Around body positivity, around,
every damn thing.
The definition
Every
of a
damn
woman
thing.
as a mother, as a daughter, as a wife,
We didn't question anything.
and I think that every time I have a conversation with these young women, what I wanted to say to them is that, thank you for opening up my world and allowing me to get the benefit of the questions that you're beginning to ask. But look, to answer your question specifically, I think the first thing I really, really want to say to young women is, stand up for who you are, believe in yourself, don't wall yourself off from conflicts in the workplace, conflicts at home, negotiate for yourself, learn to negotiate for yourself.
Conflicts are
wherever you
not
are.
bad. These are important aspects of growing up. And conflicts are good. Having a debate is good. Having a debate does not mean you're having a war. You always complete.
I mean, for me, I think respect for my parents does not mean I have to agree with them on everything they say, right? I mean, respect and disagreements are not don't go hand in hand. And
if my dad is listening to this, I told you. I tell you this every day. Just because you're my dad doesn't mean I have to agree with you.
I mean, the things that we say today, that you and I, the lessons that we've learned, right? I mean, in 12 years of being an entrepreneur multiple times over, there are learnings. There are learnings from experiences and the realization that every conversation is a teachable moment. So, when people say you must meet so and so, or go have a cup of coffee with this person, just
You never
walking
know.
without an agenda, without having done any reading up on them, right? Because you don't know where that conversation is going to go.
Totally. You never know.
Um,
I've
yeah,
met people I've done business with generally in an aircraft sometimes, or at the airport, or sometimes, even at a coffee shop, just sharing a space. You don't know what life
yeah,
has in
yeah,
store
yeah,
for you. Some
yeah,
people
yeah.
just, life happens.
I I'm very inspired also. I mean, aside from Angelo, I'm also inspired by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah,
Who said, from a higher perspective, being challenged is a good thing. So constantly allow for challenges, because the more you take challenges head on, the richer your life is going to be, and the more opportunity is going to come knocking into your door. And it's okay to shut one door firmly behind you, because that's what you need to do to open another. And I mean, um, I've come from a family of privilege, but I've also come from a family which pushed me really hard to go into a direction which I chose not to take. And there is no regrets whatsoever, not, for a moment, as far as I'm concerned. And, my parents, but dad's no more. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody in the family is really, really proud of me. So what I want to say here, and these are words from, again, one of Oprah's books. She said, "You are not your circumstances, you are your potential, your possibilities." So I think the message to every woman, in the room out there, is really that never ever make it about the circumstances, because we all have circumstances, and how we choose to act, how we choose to allow ourselves to think and be, is really, entirely in our hands. There's no one to
absolutely.
hold responsible. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. As somebody said, life is not about what happens to you. Life is about what you do with what happens to you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
So,
look, the truth is that no choices, not all choices are created equal, right?
but it doesn't
Um,
matter. It just doesn't
yeah,
matter.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
okay
I
to
mean, I
fail,
know,
isn't it? How many
yeah,
times have
it's
you
okay to fail.
failed? My next question to you.
Oh God, many times over. I think my first failure came when I failed a driving school exam at 18. I mean, I was crushed, you know, from being an A-lister in
I
school and
I failed
college.
my driving school exam. Like literally, whenever I have to take a driving school exam, I have to study for 10 days for it because I don't seem to
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. And then, early days, I mean, whilst I was fighting these battles at home, I was made to meet eligible young men, some of who would turn around and say, "Oh, she's too short. Oh, she's too fat. Oh, she's too, she's not fair enough." I mean, that's also failure, right? Rejection is a
That
form of
fair
failure.
enough thing happens still.
And yeah, I mean, these things happen, and these things happened then, and these things continue to happen for a very large segment of our society even today. But the truth is, it gives you the courage and the strength to say, okay, you know what? Actually, I don't want this either. And then you put your foot down and get to a stage where you turn around and tell the other person that, look, I'm not interested in you, and it's going to look very bad on me if I said on you if I said no to you. Maybe you should go around and just go out and say, I don't think this is going to work. So those are early day failures that just make you stronger. As women, I don't know about, I mean, I don't know if this is a generalized, enough judgment to pass, but the truth is that women get emotionally attached to whatever they do. We take failures personally, right?
Everything becomes our baby.
Everything
It's
becomes
so
our baby.
difficult.
Everything
It's
becomes
so
my problem,
difficult.
all my fault. Yeah,
Exactly.
but
It took me, I'll tell you something, Shilpa, it took me around 10 to 12 years in my entrepreneurial journey. I've got 22, 23 years of entrepreneurship behind me. And I'll tell you, it was 10 or 12 years of learnings and failures and people walking all over me and people throwing me all over the place, people cheating. Every damn thing in the world has happened in my life to me. It took me all that time to really kind of start thinking of my business as a separate entity. And,
right.
it took a lot of counseling for me to really understand that when I go to work, it's not my baby anymore. I am somebody who works for that entity. So in my mind, I had to create compartments that allowed me to fail better,
Yeah,
because failure is everywhere around you. You have to fail if you have to learn. And for me to really accept that, there are decisions I would take as a person, as Mira myself. There are decisions I would take if I were that person. But as the CEO of that company, or the founder of that company, or the tech person of that company, or the marketing person of the company, the decisions that I take might not be the decision Mira's take. As the founder of that company, I have to work with people I don't like. As a founder of the company, it's my duty to do the best for that opportunity, for what that company stands for, not for me. And in my mind, to divide my own personality into so many parts, given the role I was playing, was the biggest challenge.
I think we're all work in process, even today.
True.
The ability to detach yourself from outcomes of business decisions that need to be taken, right? And to tell yourself that, material wealth is not your self-worth, and your value is not defined by how much you've been able to acquire.
You are so right. You're so right.
So look, but this is all.
But you have to define your own KPI too. You have to define what works for you. For some people, material wealth might work, but for some people, the success or a certain KPI works, or the certain other thing gives you happiness, which is not related to material wealth at all, or a certain achievement gives you more happiness, right? So what gives you the most happiness?
I think at very many levels, the freedom to be my own person, not have to seek approval of anybody, to be able to pick and choose what I want to do with my time is the most joyous moment for me. I took a decision after I stepped down from Jaypore in 2018. I took a decision to really spend my time leveraging my learnings and experiences for the benefit of the underserved. I spend a lot of my time today mentoring enterprises in the hills, in mountain and forest communities, women entrepreneurs. Look, I wasn't taught how to champion women. It didn't occur to me growing up. I had battles to fight. But I think it takes for you to get thrown under the bus at work by people you trust the most, that made me want to protect other women, to be someone who would watch out for them, caution them against oppression, especially around male partners. And look, the thing is that, you get, I don't remember who said this, but, you get to be naive only once, and you have to make the most of it. So, and, now I believe very firmly that if every woman around me decides to mentor and champion even 2 women, that would change the very fabric of the society that we live in. And, my dad, I think, taught me how to give. He always said, when you know, you must teach. When you get, you must give. When you learn, you must share. And that, I think, resonates with me in every call I take in my life every day, whether at home or in the work I do. There's just so much out there, so many women out there who just need a little bit of support, a little bit of help to help, build a future. I think it's a responsibility that we have. Greatness doesn't come, and I think giving at any level, it just feels so
it's enough if you can just give whatever. It's your time, it's your effort. It's just,
and it's never about money, right?
Absolutely.
I don't think people are, going to say, "Oh, Shilpa's a philanthropist." It's never just about the money. It's about your time. It's about
your experience,
sharing your experiences, your learnings. All of that.
So when you work with women, especially craftsmen, because I know you're on the board of the Indian Artic Crafts Association.
It's called
AIACA.
ACA. That's right.
And then you're on the board of so many universities and schools that run textile programs. And tell us more about how you work with women who are probably weavers, right? And women in remote areas as well. You mentor them through a lot of things that you do.
So, typically what happens is that there is an artisan entrepreneur who is living in those communities and working with women on the ground. Women weavers in the mountains uh, need somebody who's going to champion, for them and their work and their cause. So typically there's an artisan entrepreneur who's heading the social enterprise. It could be a not-for-profit company, it could be a for-profit social enterprise. So typically there is a woman who's either quit the city life and chosen to move to the hills and live there and work with local communities to be able to enable them, empower them to become financially independent, because financial independence in rural communities, changes their life in every which way, right? I mean, every seed has the making of 1,000 forests. And I think that my engagement really is with the leadership, is with the women who've made the choices to stay in those communities and work with them on the ground. So um, it could be spending time with them, talking to them about, the market and the opportunity that the market presents, right? In terms of, let's say there's a bunch of weavers, let's say there's a bunch of women knitters. What is the product that they're making, and who are they making this product for? If they have to be able to sell it in urban markets, the aesthetic influences on the average urban woman are phenomenal. She's inspired by global trends. So the bridging the gap between a skill and what the outcome of that skill can be and what the reality of the marketplace is really a conversation to be had. So spending time talking to them about market opportunities and what they need to do to be able to up the ante on their product, right? I mean, how do you move up the value chain so that your product could be sitting in any home anywhere in the world? Hand knitted is huge worldwide, right? I mean, appreciation of handmade, handcrafted
Big.
is tremendous. So yeah, I mean, introducing designers who are willing to make time to go help them, explore opportunities in color, opportunities with design in a way that it just elevates the perceived value of the product 3 times over, for them to be able to work with exporters, for them to be able to work with retailers and directly with platforms, the online opportunities immense. So I think, just to be that bridge, just to be that sounding board, just to be that enabler, sometimes it's just about opening up your world of your network, because connecting good people with good people can be magical.
It can be definitely, definitely.
And that's very little. It just doesn't take very much to just pick the phone on someone, or just to make an email introduction, because that there's an opportunity there to co-create, to collaborate in ways that it can work for both. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the work I do is really just being there for them, and it doesn't take more than 1 or 2 days a month of my time with each
That
one of
is so
them. So
amazing and so
yeah,
inspirational, Shilpa. What are your plans now? What do you want to do next?
I've never made plans. I'm the sort of person who wants to live in the moment, be in the moment. Tomorrow will still come. I know that my health is up on a pedestal there, is like topmost priority, and that's fine. I'm not answerable and accountable to anybody for the amount of time I want to spend on personal well-being. Personal well-being at the physical, emotional, spiritual, every level, and that already gives me so much more energy to do things with my time, professionally or otherwise. My son is in the US, is on his own journey. We give them wings to fly, and then we have to just, I think at some point in time, the parenting relationship moves to a consultancy, where you make yourself available as much as they need you to be available. Show up when they want you to show up, right? And that's as far as he's concerned. Yes, there's a commitment to travel. I mean, I love travel, and I want to be able to take small breaks with him, because that's really the time that we invest in the relationship, the bonds that we've built, that I want to continue to
Here is what
nurture.
you should do. You should fly to New York. I'll see you there, and we'll drive across America. How about
I'm
that?
actually going to be in New York this summer, this spring, in the
Then
middle
we
of
have a
May.
date.
So yeah, I look forward to that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, to be able to, I'm building a house in the hills. That's where I really want to spend more and more of my time. And I know that over the next year or two, that's going to be a massive project for me.
When you say hills, are
There
you in
is
Missouri?
no, I'm going to the hills in the Nilgiris down south.
Oh, wow.
I mean, South India is far gentler, as terrain and as people. The simplicity of South India is endearing. And having lived in Delhi, I mean, I have a grudging acceptance of the fact that 15 years in Delhi has been very good for me. But the truth is that I'm not sure I want to, grow old in Delhi. So I do want to have, and whilst primary home will always be here, I do want to have a place where I can be without having to think about, needing to get back. So that's a fairly large part of my priorities for the next 2 years. And of course, there is consulting that I continue to do. There is, the world is beginning to travel again, and we've got to pick up the threads where we left off 2 years ago, pre-COVID, for breakaway. Mustard's taken on its own life. The pandemic has been hard. We've had to shut Mustard in Mumbai, but Mustard in Goa continues to grow from strength to strength. Yeah, I mean, I think there are opportunities there waiting to be leveraged. So yeah, I mean, I'm as busy can be, but I don't feel stuck with doing anything that I don't really want to do, and that I think is a gift to be grateful for.
This was such an inspirational chat with you, Shilpa. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, and just the way you think, the way you sorted your life out, the way how clear you are about where you want to go, is so inspirational. It was such a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me here, Meera. I've really enjoyed this conversation. And what I'd like to say is that if one person listening to this conversation goes back into a conversation at work or at home, feeling
Absolutely.
that she has an army behind her, then I think it was, a conversation worth having and time well spent. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being
Thank you.
with us.
And all the very best. Bye-bye.